Okay, so I took a screenshot of a sketch and I've opened it up in Photoshop. And the first thing I'm going to do is brighten it up a little bit to make it a little bit easier to trace. To do that, I'm going to go to Image, Adjustments. I'm going to go to Levels because it's one of the easier ways to do it. Right now, this is the lighter pixels. These are the darker pixels. You can see that are very, and this shows how many pixels are in each category. Right now, there are no pixels in the bright area. So if I drag this way, you'll see that the image brightens up a lot. I can even pull it over into here if I want to really brighten it up, but I don't really need to do that. So I'm going to bring it to there. I can also change the middle pixels where they fall, and I can make this a little bit contrastier by pulling in the slider on the dark end. And that's all more information than you probably need, but you know, there it is. Click OK. I'm going to go to Image, Image Rotation, flip canvas horizontally to flip the bird the other direction. Then this is selected with the crop tool, and I'm going to drag it from the corner. I can drag it and make it horizontal like that, and then I'm going to open it up like that to make sure I don't lose any of the bird. And then I hit enter and it crops it. And now I'm going to save this as save. Okay. And you would want to, I would go ahead and put this in your project folder. I'm not going to do that right at the moment, but that's what I would do with it. Next, I'm going to go to Illustrator. And I'm going to create a new file, 5x5, create. And just like in InDesign, I can go File, Place, and I go with the bird, Place, and I can make it big by dragging. We haven't used layers much in InDesign. I would use layers in Illustrator. When you get to an Illustrator class in later, they will talk about layers a lot. So the bird is on layer 1. I'm going to, there is an eyeball that turns that layer on and off. Next to that, there's a blank space. If I click there, it creates a lock, and that lock locks this layer so nothing can happen to it. Then I'm going to go down to the bottom of the layers palette and click create new layer and select that layer, and that's where I'm going to do my drawing. I have this bird here. It's irregularly shaped. I could make little bitty shapes and make this all work, but really in this case, the pen tool is going to be the best choice. So I'm going to go up to the pen tool, and I said that you could click and drag to make curves, or you can just click and you get a series of straight lines. I'm going to click and click and click, and you'll notice that it's got a fill of white. That's going to make it more difficult to draw it in some cases. So I'm going to go up to my swatches palette, and the fill I'm going to set to none. And then I'm going to close the swatches palette. Notice how the pen is still active. I'm going to then go click there, click there, click there, and there. This particular drawing has a lot of interesting detail. Normally I could make this a lot simpler, but I'm actually going to try to hold on to some of this detail. And so I'm going to do a series of very small clicks to try to get the details. Okay, and I come up here, and I'm going to come down here. It's a little complicated coming back here because Illustrator is going to want to add a point here rather than actually draw what I want. So I'm going to click just a little to the right and then up here and there. And I'm going to click there and down to there. Okay. Then I have an eye, and I'm going to click and click and click and click and click. And now I have, well, I have two shapes. If I drag over, I can see those shapes, but I'd managed to not fill them or stroke them with color. So I'm going to take and drag across both of those items and select them. I'm going to go up here, go to my stroke color and click black. I can also go to stroke here, and I can actually control how thick these strokes are. Something that is also useful is you'll notice that these have really sharp corners. It might be better to have slightly rounded corners on this logo, or something called a miter edge, which is also sometimes useful. Okay, close that. I can turn off the drawing and I see that I've got my bird. I can use so the black arrow will move the whole object. The white arrow, if I deselect and then reselect, then I can actually pick a specific point and move it. And then in this case, I can go and line that up. One thing that I'm looking at on here is that this edge of the wing has an extra point in it, an extra change in direction. This one is straight. So I'm thinking that what I want to do is go to here. I can go to the pen tool and add an anchor point. Click, go back to the white arrow, select that point, make it more like that. And then I can take this point here and drag it over here. And now we have two wings that are kind of more similar. And something like that. So to make the wings a little bit more similar, then I can select this bird here. And we can make it a bluebird. Oop, that wasn't what I wanted to do. So go back to black for the stroke, go back to the fill, go back to the color, and now it's a black bird. And then I can fill this with black to give you an eye. So I have a bird. If I want to alter my colors, I can click on this bird again and go to the color palette as opposed to the swatches palette. And I can take and drag one of these down so that the bird becomes lighter blue. Then generally this wing would be in shadow. So I'm just going to go a little bit crazy, go to the pen tool, and I'm going to trace over this wing. And back up. And then I can fill it with a darker blue. Maybe even add a little black, like a shadow. And then I have a bird logo. And then if I say wanted the beak to be a little bit different color, again, I can trace over that. And maybe I want it to be orange. And then I have that. Then there's also the option of making this bird more curved. To do that, I can go to the anchor point tool. I'm going to close this. With the anchor point tool, I can click on this point here and drag it, and I get a series of handles, and that makes that smoother. I can drag this, and it makes that a little smoother. I can drag this, and I can drag that. It's interesting. I don't know how I managed to drag the back one, so I'm going to go Command Z, Command Z. I'm going to select here. There, that's smoother. And that's smoother. I'm going to want to make sure I cover up the back wing so it looks good. And so that's there. I'm also looking at that eye and thinking it's a little big. So I can go back to my swatches palette, select the stroke and delete it. And then the eye is smaller. If I click on the black arrow, I get handles. I can actually rotate this eye a little bit. Okay, like that. And if I think, and I want to take this a little bit farther, I can go to View, Outline, and it shows me this. And I was just curious about here. If I do that, that now lines up perfectly. Go from View Outline to View Preview. And I guess the other thing is, I'm deleting the handles from those points to try to get them to line up as best I can. Okay, so there's the bird logo. And then I want to save it, save as. Again, you'd want to save it into your You want to save it as an Illustrator file. You'd want to save it into your project folder. Click OK. And then you would go into InDesign. File, new document. Print. View all presets. US business card. Create. That's horizontal. Turn off facing pages. Set the margins to 1p. Turn on the bleed in case you want to use it. And the number is either P9 or 0.125 IN. Click create. I'm going to make it real size. Command 1 or Control 1 sets it at 100% actual size. File, place. Go to my desktop where I've got the bird. Click open. And then I can drag it to whatever size that I want. And there's preview. And there's the bird. And because it's done in Illustrator, well, I mean, that's not my favorite. Anyway, I have not thought this through, but you know, there's a possible logo on a possible background. And I'm getting too fancy here for my own good. But that's just the way I am. So object, arrange, send back. So, and then one can put one's information. I'm going to go back to my business card. Command V. So the one thing that's not here would be company name. And maybe that needs to be okay. Okay. So that just gives you an idea of how to actually create a logo from your illustration without becoming too crazy about it.